Morning as a tutor. I'm Shaina Sri from Dam 2A with Siti Noalia from Dam 2A2. So we have given assignment to do that is a history review. We will be talking about bearing today. So we will move on to the board. So at this board you can look at the pictures where they are all about bearing. So to know more about their information, we are going to use HP River. It's a very simple app that you scan the picture and you will know its definition or other picture behind it. So I'm going to show you an example. Okay, like example. So we'll start from definition. So if you can see there, bearing is a machine element that contains relative motions between moving parts to only the desired motion. So this is the function of the app where it while you scan the picture, it comes with another definition or another things that you can stick to it. So that's all. Okay, we are moving to next. So bearing is a device that is used to enable rotational or inner movement while reducing friction and handling stress. Resembling wheels bearing literally enable devices to roll, which reduce the friction between the surface of the bearing and the surface of if it's rolling over. While we're seeing about history of bearing. Okay, sometimes the app doesn't work that right, but it takes time. So the invention of the rolling bearing in the form of wooden roller supporting or bearing an object being moved is of great antiquity and may predate the invention of the wheel. Leonardo da Vinci incorporated drawing of ball bearing in his design for a helicopter around the year 1500. This is the first recorded use of a bearing in an aerospace design. So that's the history of bearing. And now we're going to move it to types of bearing. So there are several types of bearing, and these are the main ones of the bearings. First is a double row self-aligning, single and double roller bearing, deep groove ball bearing, angular contact ball bearing, cylindrical roller bearing, tap roller bearing, self-aligning roller bearing, needle ball bearing, and truss ball bearing. Contohnya stop it. Okay, this is a magnetic bearing. Okay, magnetic bearing is the type of bearing that supports a magnetic levitation. Magnetic bearing supports moving parts without physical contacts. For instance, they are able to levitate a rotating shaft and permit relative motion with low friction and no mechanical wear. Magnetic bearings support the highest speeds of all kinds of bearing and have no maximum relative speed. So moving on to next. So this is called as a jewel bearing. So I'll be reading about this. So a jewel bearing is a plain bearing in which a metal spindle turns into a jewel-lined pivot hole. The hole is typically shaped like a torus and is slightly larger than the shaft diameter. The jewel material is usually synthetic sapphire or ruby, known as corundum. Jewel bearings are used in precision and instruments where low friction, long life, and dimensional accuracy are important. The largest use in mechanical watches. So this type of bearing you can find in watches usually in your daily life. Usually when you wear watches, you can open it and you can find this bearing inside. Okay, I'm moving on to next. Okay, this is known as a ball bearing. It's a sabar. Alamak. Jap. Okay. Okay, this is known as a fluid bearing. Okay, I'll be explaining about this. So fluid bearings are bearings in which the load is supported by a thin layer of rapidly moving pressurized liquid or gas between the bearing surfaces. Since there is no contact between all the moving parts, there is no sliding friction, allowing fluid bearings to have lower friction, wear, and vibration than many other types of bearing. They can be broadly classified into two types: fluid dynamic bearing, also known as hydrodynamic bearing, and hydrostatic bearing. So we'll be moving on to next. Okay, this is a flexure bearing. Okay, a flexure bearing is category of flexure which is engineered to be compliant in one or more angular degrees of freedom. Flexure bearing are serve much of the same function as conventional bearing or hinges in applications which require angular compliance, but flexure require no lubrication and exhibit very low or no friction. Another bearing where the name is okay, if you guys look at it, this is a plain bearing. Okay, a plain bearing, or more commonly sliding bearing and slide bearing in railroading, sometimes called solid bearing or friction bearing, is the simplest type of bearing, bearing comprising just a bearing surface and no rolling elements. Plain bearing in general are a least expensive type of bearing. They are also compact and lightweighted, and they have load carrying capacity. Okay, so that's all for our presentation to this HP review. I just want to shout out thanks to you guys that watched the video, and yeah, click thumbs up.